Good afternoon, students. It is Sunday afternoon. I know that you're gearing up for quiz number 3. You probably are having some trouble getting enthusiastic about watching Citizen Kane. I hope you're not. I hope that you've read the information, you've looked at the clips, and you feel good about watching this really important film that has been voted #1 best film of all time by the American Film Institute and by the Directors Guild. You can only enjoy it that way if you watch it as a film student and put it in that context. Look for the camera, the editing, and the breakthrough cinematography in this film. Also, you can enjoy it more by watching it as though it's a puzzle that you have to put together. So watch it in that respect as well. You really do need to follow the plot line and look at how these flashbacks fit together. There's a beautiful graph for this in chapter 12. So make sure that you look at that. That will help you watch it the first time and get a lot more out of it. At the same time, this movie is important historically. William Randolph Hearst was an extremely important character in American history. He absolutely changed journalism. He introduced the idea that the media is going to create reality for the American public and make political decisions. That's something we're still working through, and it's important that we see the roots of this. It also has a pretty important message that films have had through decades about the acquisition of material goods and in looking for love and happiness, and also how we don't know people. We only know parts of them. So watch Citizen Kane again if you need to. Be as enthusiastic as you can be about it. And in the next clip, I'm going to talk to you about the editing chapter and what you need to concentrate on and maybe what you can skip a little bit. Okay, editing chapter. You need to know about cutting to continuity. You need to know what continuity is. You need to know what the editor does. You need to know match on action. You have a list on that study quiz, what's it called? The study guide sheet that I gave you, which is what I usually use during the semester for the midterm. Make sure that you look at all of those, what classical cutting is. You already know what classical Hollywood cinema is in terms of the realism classicism scale. Now you need to know what it means to cut classically. Make sure you're aware of that. Okay, editing chapter. You need to know about cutting to continuity. You need to know what continuity is. You need to know what the editor does. You need to know match on action. You have a list on that study quiz, what's it called? The study guide sheet that I gave you, which is what I usually use during the semester for the midterm. Make sure that you look at all of those, what classical cutting is. You already know what classical Hollywood cinema is in terms of the realism classicism scale. Now you need to know what it means to cut classically. Make sure you're aware of that. Oh, and 180-degree rule. Right, you watch that clip where a student filmed me walking into the building so that you get that straight. I think I already told you this, that It's a Wonderful Life is an important clip that is on 158. So make sure you read that caption. You can skip all of these other captions as I'm going through these pages. This information will help you so that you do better on the quiz. But in terms of the actual questions on the quiz, if you're in a hurry going through here, you can skip reading these captions. We don't need to know about Jennifer Beals in Flashdance. who, by the way, is in a very good television show now called Chicago. All right, for the most part, in terms of the historical filmmakers in this section, you obviously need to know D.W. Griffith and what he did with editing. That was important. You also need to know about the Odessa Steps sequence in Battleship Potemkin. This is famous, obviously, because Eisenstein was a Russian filmmaker at the early 20th century who was hired by the new Russian government after the Russian Revolution. He was hired to make the first political propaganda film to make the Russian people and the world support the revolution and support the new government. So the film was made for us to root for the mutineers, for the revolutionaries, the poor guys who had maggots in their meat on the ship, and the government was corrupt and needed to be removed, and that was what Eisenstein was trying to do. Why he's important to filmmaking is that he invented the dialectical montage. That's why it's called the Russian montage. The idea of cutting for emotional impact. He believed that psychologically, philosophically, that when we see these cuts, we are affected emotionally in a way that the filmmaker manipulates. That's why you should know what the Kuleshov effect is, and watch those clips very carefully in the modules, because it emphasizes the idea that we react according to the cut, not necessarily what's in the frame. Now, Eisenstein was an extremist in this respect. That doesn't mean that that's not still used. As you saw in the clip, Francis Ford Coppola used it at the end of Godfather 1. He also used it really effectively in Dracula, if you've ever seen that film. And I recommend that you do. Now that you know these film techniques, you're going to love it, because you're going to watch how he's playing with all these film techniques in Dracula. Okay, now the other captions that I think are important that you can't overlook would be, I think, the Lifeboat one on my page 173, the Moulin Rouge and the Bourne Supremacy. Also, the Rear Window, which is on my 170, 171. Then you really need to, I think, look at the Odessa Steps pictures, because you're going to wonder what else besides the shock of it all is important. And you're going to see that he has cuts that have different angles, and which make it really awkward for the reader or for the viewer, almost as though we're shocked just by the visual, not even if we're considering the content. So look at those pictures that way. And then take note that Andre Bazin, who said that you can do with the close-up, and you can do with careful positioning and mise-en-scène as much emotionally as you can do with the dialectical montage. So they disagreed about that. You need to note that, which means that you will look at the caption on page 198, where you have the famous character hanging off of the clock there. Also look at the caption to the Clerks and Emily, and you can pretty much ignore the rest of them, I think, and even though I think the Annie Hall one is very interesting. Then you have the storyboard, so you can see how things are cut to keep action moving along. So good luck on those. Make sure that you're looking at the calendar, And don't forget to page me, call me, whatever you need to do, so that you're really clear about what your assignments are. And not too many of you have been contacting me with questions about the content. So if there are things you're not understanding, I don't know that. And so I would look forward to questions about content that you have.